Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, March 24th of 2024. I have a wonderful message for you today, and I have a feeling it's going to be a lot shorter than most of my Sunday messages, just because the biggest thing that came through to me this week was the idea of this. In order to increase our output, we need to reduce our input. So think about all the things that we input into our ears, into our eyes, into our awareness. Everything is input, information, the reels we watch, the Netflix series we watch, even sitting at a table with a big group of friends or family. A lot of that is input. And I'm not saying that you should not do any of those things, especially the dinner with your friends and family. That's really good input typically. But what I'm talking about is the mindless input that we allow into our awareness, what we allow into our consciousness, into our knowledge base, into our energy field. It's sometimes so much that it allows us to stay in a stuck place rather than increasing our output. And what I mean by that is increasing our creativity. I know that when I'm able to have the biggest creative moments and the most output in an energetic way is when I reduce the stuff that comes into my awareness. So the idea of reducing input to increase output. And I'm not talking about things like increase input about something to learn. If I want to learn something that's going to help me do a different technique for the art that I like to do, that's a different type of input. That's an educational, informational. I'm talking about the mindless input, the things that we just listen to and get caught in. We need to really think about the way that information is structured and designed. And it's designed to keep our attention. And it's gotten to such a weird space that I really do believe a lot of people are starting to see it. So what I did is I wrote down the top things that we can each do that will help reduce our input and increase our output, which is bringing beautiful things to the world. Even if it's just our presence, where we get to disconnect from our phone. We get to, you don't bring your phone to a dinner table or a meal with somebody. This is one of the best gifts that you can give somebody, is not being distracted by the notifications on your phone. Leave your phone in the car. That's one of my biggest tips. Now, the second thing that to take that a next level, literally leave your phone at home when you go somewhere, especially if you're going somewhere with your spouse or your partner or your family. You're going to be with them anyway, the people that might need to reach you. Unless you're a person that's on call, you're in like some type of emergency situation, or you're a doctor on call, or if you're an on-call person, then that's different. But if you get anxiety by leaving your phone at home when you're going out to dinner with your spouse even, this is a really good sign that you need to disconnect from that. Okay, so I wrote eight small things that will help reduce your input so you can increase your output. Now, the first thing is do a digital detox. And that's what I was just talking about, right? So what I wrote right here is this. When we disconnect from digital distractions, it allows us to reconnect with ourselves, fostering creativity, clarity, and inner peace. I spent a good chunk of the last 4 years, probably the first two after 2020, 2021, and even a good chunk of 2022, looking at all of the things that can make us afraid of the world. And it just reiterates the worldview that the world is an unsafe place. And the thing is, you could, throughout human history, from the moment you were born, you could look at the world with the input that you allow into your awareness. The world will always be unsafe. So it might be time to do a digital detox, and do it as a family, do it as a couple. And if you can't get your family to come along, or even your other half to come along, do it on your own and set the example. That's what I have found is the very best way to show and be present with the people that you want to make changes with. If they don't want to, if you want to say, hey, let's take a week off and not watch anything on TV. That would be a great digital detox, right? Because that's kind of a fallback for a lot of people. Especially in the winter here, I would say it's a super big fallback for me and my husband. It's like, what do we want to watch? And a lot of times we'll watch things that are, inspiring. We love to watch, food channels like Chef's Table is one of our favorites. We're just getting through a food series with Stanley Tucci, which is just, those seem to actually, give my husband good ideas. And we are always like, even though we just ate dinner, it's like this, like I would like to try this food, and maybe experience this in another country or whatever. So I think that if you were to start with a digital detox and you can't get your family to come along, then literally do it on your own and set the example. Okay, so the number 2 thing in this list of 8 is to use mindful consumption. Okay, and what I mean by this is we want to choose quality over quantity. Like I was talking about, Chef's Table is beautifully filmed. Some of you might be familiar with it. There's several seasons, and they've basically spotlighted like Michelin star restaurants in all over the world in different countries, and it's mostly really unique chefs with really beautiful things that they bring to the world. So choose quality over quantity when you consume media. This will help nourish your mind with valuable content and reduce the information overload. Sometimes I've had times when I literally will want to disconnect from the world for whatever reason, if I'm just feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling extra tired and I just don't want to think about anything and I don't want to do anything, and I think I deserve just to lay on the couch and just scroll through reels or whatever. When I've reached a certain saturation point, I actually feel worse and I don't feel better. And that is like sensory overload. That's information overload. And these little clips are designed just to keep you stuck. What's next? What's next? What's next? And we're losing the art of slow information consumption. It's just like fast food made slow food, home cooking, a bit of a trial for some people. And I believe that has now come back. This feels full circle to me. I know a lot of people still eat a lot of fast food, but I believe that people are really starting to realize not only is it healthier, less expensive, but there's also an intention and a joy to cooking your own meals and making slow food, where this is a part of a routine and a tradition of being a human being, right? This is something that's always been a part of our household. I'm lucky to be with a person who loves to cook, and he makes the most amazing meals. And we've reached a point where we prefer to eat at home, even if it's our anniversary or some big occasion. We always make the decision to make a meal at home. So we very rarely go out, but that's just mindful consumption, right? Of whatever information you allow in. Now, the third thing I wrote down here is to set some boundaries, okay? And then here's what I wrote. Establish boundaries with technology. This will create a space for focused work, meaningful interactions, and a more balanced life, okay? So we have to set boundaries. Sometimes we have to put the boundaries on ourselves. We have to choose. Is this going to be easy for me just to fall into this? Yes, but we need to set a boundary. Like after 5 o'clock, no more technology. And I know there is one thing that's really important, and many of you probably know this and are doing this, but this is before you go to sleep. They say like 1 or 2 hours, you shouldn't have any blue light. So if you're reading on a Kindle, and that might be I think you can actually lessen the light exposure. But if you're watching your computer, watching your phone, if the last thing that you're doing on your phone or your iPad or whatever is in bed scrolling or doing different, maybe you just do a mindless game or something, that blue light is actually super bad for your sleep patterns. And even though we know that, we still do it because maybe that's our rhythm. So we have to set boundaries. So set boundaries, and then realize that the more you start following the boundaries, the easier it's going to get. Because some of these things are very hard in the beginning. And whenever you form a new habit, it's always hard. In fact, I think there's a saying, it's actually, these things are very simple to do, but they're not easy. Okay? So they're simple. It's just like when we know what it takes to lose weight. We know what we need to do to lose weight. For the huge majority of us, we need to eat less and we need to move more. It's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy, right? So that's setting boundaries. Now this one is this number 4 that I wrote. Of course, I put it as number 4. Number 4 is my lucky angel number. But I wrote, create a Zen environment. So a lot of times, if we create an environment that's conducive to us not having to be locked into our technology and always getting input, then that's going to make a big difference. So a clutter-free, calming environment can promote productivity, concentration, and a sense of well-being. You might be able to focus in a cluttered environment. I've always been a bit of a neat freak. In fact, I grew up sharing a bedroom with my oldest sister. So her and I are the oldest two. She's a year older than me, of this big family of 14, and I'm number 2. And a lot of our childhood we spent sharing a bedroom. And she loved having a room with me because as my memory serves, I would always keep my room clean, my side of the room clean, and then I would help her keep her room clean because I couldn't stand the cluttered environment. And sister, if you're watching this and I'm wrong, let's chat about it. But that is my memory. And we both become adults way early on in our adulthood, even while we were raising our kids, that a clutter-free environment was a really great way to keep a Zen environment. To me, that's really important. So a clutter-free, calming environment promotes productivity, concentration, and a sense of well-being. Okay. Now, number 5 is also super important because this involves reducing input to increase output. And this is mindful eating. And I put this on here because I think that we don't maybe put that in the category of allowing less in to actually have an increase in what we're able to bring to the world. If we mindfully eat clean foods, small amounts, we reduce our portions, we don't just eat until we feel sick to our stomach, or we've all overindulged, every single one of us. I can't think of one person that I've ever known that has not overindulged. But if we practice more mindful eating, it could make a big difference in what we can actually create and give to the world. And here's what I wrote here. Nourishing our body with nutritious food fuels our energy levels. It enhances our mental clarity and supports overall health and vitality. This is something that you really don't understand it until you experience it. If you're used to always eating those 3 square meals a day, and you're not used to being hungry and just letting your body feel those feelings, ride through it, maybe drink a glass of water, and then get out the other end of a super sharp hunger pang. And I'm not talking about people who maybe have low glycemic, who maybe are diabetic, or I'm talking about the normal person who can skip a meal here and there. And I know many people do intermittent fasting, and that's a really nice way. I will tell you, whenever I do fasting, and I always do intentional 24-hour, 48-hour, 3 or 4 day fasting. I've done some extended fasting. The mental clarity that I have during those times is undescribable until you can actually experience it. A lot of people can't wrap their head around skipping meals because it's just not a normal part of our modern society. There's so much abundance in food that we tend to overindulge, and it dulls us. It dulls our mental clarity. So this would be something I would really encourage you to start doing. And again, it might be something that you need to set an example on. You need to be the one in a partnership or relationship to set the example. And don't make it about, oh, look how virtuous I'm being. I'm skipping meals. During my entire marriage, I've always been the one that does fasting, and I realized pretty early on that this was never something my husband was going to join me in. He has no interest. Nothing about fasting resonates with him on any level. And if that is the case with you too, if you have a partner or someone who you would love it if they did a fast with you, because the idea is that it makes it easier. If you're not eating and someone else is cooking the meal for themselves, oh, that makes it really too hard. But when you wrap your head around the mindful eating piece, and especially the fasting, if that's right for you, if someone else is making a meal, it doesn't even tempt you. And it's really an interesting place to be in. So mindful eating is super important. Okay, 3 more. Number 6 is to practice meditation and mindfulness. This is almost on everyone, right? If you're going to increase your output to the world and decrease your input, you must get into a daily place of meditation, even if it's just sitting quietly. Even if you can't shut your mind down, even you can't quiet your mind completely, just sit in a quiet place and do some meditation. So here's what I wrote about this. Cultivating a mindfulness practice can cultivate presence, okay? Reduce stress and enhance creativity and help your problem-solving skills. You know, we rush to things so quickly that we just don't even pay attention, right? Now, number 7 is to engage in physical activity. This one, super important, you guys. I've gone on and on about this. I talk about my hiking all the time. I talk about getting up in the mountains. I talk about going on these long walks. And I lift weights 3 times a week, which I feel is super important as I get older. The more I realize, oh my gosh, this has been one of the best habits I've ever put into place, was my strength training. Because you realize that these habits compound. So here's what I wrote about physical activity. When we engage in regular exercise and physical movement, it boosts our mood, increases our energy, and sharpens cognitive function, leading to greater productivity and well-being. If you're an exerciser, if you're a person who's done a lot of, I taught classes for 40 years. I did a marathon and a full marathon and a couple of half marathons. And when you are in a place where you're exercising, where your heart rate is up, there is a piece of mental clarity that you can't describe unless you feel it, unless you really understand what you're getting and why you're getting it, because there is improved circulation and oxygen to your brain. You're getting movement. You're getting your circulatory system and the oxygen filled blood throughout your whole system, including your brain. So physical activity is a beautiful way to improve all the things that you have to give to the world, because you're paying attention to this vessel that helps you bring it. The last one, and this is, as we lay our head down to sleep, we need to prioritize it. We need to prioritize sleep. So quality sleep rejuvenates our minds and our bodies. It improves focus, decision-making, and overall productivity throughout the day. Too true, right? And I'm actually going to end it right there, because what I believe is that when we put these things into practice, these 8 steps, and maybe rewind and watch this over again and write these things down and start doing a digital detox, start mindfully eating, exercise every day, all these things that we just kind of went over, and journal about it. Quiet your mind and realize the input that you allow in is not allowing you to bring all of your gifts to the world and humanity and what is needed right now. To me, it's so, so important. So I'd love to hear, of those 8 things, what is the number one thing you struggle with, and what is the number one thing that you find the absolute easiest? I would love to hear what it is for you that's totally the easiest. Can you leave your phone at home no problem? Or maybe if the thought of leaving your phone at home causes you severe anxiety, that might be your number one thing. I'd love to hear what it is for you. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, an amazing week. This is our last week in March, and it's going to be a good one. So have a beautiful day, guys. I love you tons, and we'll see you next time.